Happy Monday, everyone. I hope you had a wonderful Easter holiday. I thought a fun topic for this week might be one of my favorite sounds for spring, the spring breeding frogs calling. So the male frogs call to their mates, and after mating, the female frogs lay their eggs in the water. But you don't have to observe them visually. You can actually tell all of Michigan's 13 frog and toad species apart by sound. It can be a really fun exercise to do. So I'm going to share the DNR website that has information about those different species, and they have downloadable sound files. So I'm going to share the different species sounds with you, and share a little bit about Michigan's Frog and Toad Survey, which has been going on for over 25 years. So another citizen scientist opportunity if you wanted to drive around to different wetlands and listen for our different frog and toad species. You can do that. And I hope you're able to get out. We have some great warm weather coming our way. But honestly, anytime it gets above freezing and the snow starts thawing, even when there's still a little ice on the water, you might be able to hear our spring frogs calling. So I hope you're able to get out and enjoy the music of spring. Take care. Have a good week.
So this is the DNR's frog and toad site. This is for Michigan, so it covers our 13 species. Here's where you can download the sounds to learn their calls and be able to tell the different species apart. But this website's a nice resource. It has information on our different frog and toad species and things about their adaptations, reproduction, and lifestyle. Some things you should know about being around frogs and toads and why they're important to people. And I love this section about conservation and how you can help them, and realize that we have some rare frog and toad species in the state as well. So I think this is a good resource to get started learning Michigan's frogs and toads. So this is the first species you might hear, the earliest in the spring, and I kind of want to run through the different species roughly in order from what you'd hear at the beginning of the spring to early summer. So when you click on these species off of the Michigan DNR site, it takes you to an iNaturalist page. This is for the wood frog. And if you want lots of detail about this species, I did some filming and covered the species life history in Mondays with Martha number 74. But the wood frog, you'll hear, it has a pretty short breeding season, only 2 to 3 weeks, and that might be in late March, further like the southern part of the state, to mid-April. And it has a hoarse, low-pitched, croaking breeding call. Next, you're likely to hear the northern spring peeper. This is probably the best known of our native frogs. It is the smallest, but ironically, it has the loudest call, and it's a peeping sound where it's often heard in a full chorus. There are lots of these together in a wetland, and from a distance, their calls can sound like the jingling of sleigh bells. Next, you might hear the western chorus frog. So this species has A musical but fairly quiet call. It doesn't have a lot of carrying power. It's ascending and only lasts 1 to 2 seconds. You'll have to listen carefully for it. It sounds like someone running their fingernail across a fine-tooth comb. Next you might hear the northern leopard frog, and this species has a slow, uneven snore. May sound like a heavy creaking door opening interspersed with some chuckling noises. And in this particular sound clip, it's raining and there are American toads trilling in the background, but listen for that snore and chuckle. The pickerel frog may be confused with the northern leopard frog I just played, but the pickerel frog has a softer, more regular snore with less carrying power to it. And it is good if you are able to verify this species by sight. As well as the call. It is generally less abundant in the state and is listed as special concern. So if you do observe this species, it's important to report your observations to Michigan Natural Features Inventory. Another well-known species that you'll hear later in the breeding call season is the Eastern American toad. And it has a high-pitched, tremulous, rather musical trill, and that can last up to 30 seconds and then end very abruptly. And each individual toad has its own different pitch that blend together, so when they're calling in chorus, it's actually quite harmonious. In Michigan, we have both the eastern gray tree frog and Cope's gray tree frog. The eastern gray has a slower, longer, more melodic call than Cope's. So in this particular recording, there's certainly a lot of peepers, but listen for that melodic trill. So Cope's gray tree frog can only be told apart from eastern gray by the sound. Cope's has a shorter, faster, and harsher call, and in this recording you'll hear the Cope's gray first and then the eastern gray second. Blanchard's cricket frog is our state threatened species here in Michigan. So it's important if you think you hear this species that you record the call, perhaps get it verified by an expert, and definitely report the observation to Michigan Natural Features Inventory. The call of this little frog is subtle, may sound like a cricket, or I like the description of clicking two metal balls together, and it starts out slow and then becomes fast and can last 30 to 40 seconds. Fowler's toad looks like American toad, but certainly sounds quite different. It calls later in the growing season, and it's much more uncommon. This species is listed as special concern in the state of Michigan. So again, if you observe this species, it's worth reporting to Michigan Natural Features Inventory. And its call sounds like the bleat of a sheep, and it's given as a single note, and you rarely hear this species in a full chorus. Another commonly encountered frog species a little later in that breeding season is the green frog. And it's sometimes confused with the bullfrog, but they sound very different. The green frog has a very vigorous call that has lots of carrying power, and it's usually given as a single note. And it's described as sounds like the twang of a loose banjo string being plucked, or a large rubber band. The mink frog is only found in Michigan's Upper Peninsula, so if you think you hear it elsewhere in the state, you'll want to get a recording and get that verified by an expert. And it sounds like horses' hooves trotting over a cobblestone street. And in this particular recording, there's a green frog in the background. The American bullfrog it has a very low sound. It's considered the base of the Michigan Frog Orchestra. It sounds like a foghorn, but with a musical ring, and it's usually isolated, but the bullfrogs do sometimes sing in chorus. In this particular recording, you can also hear that banjo string or rubber band note of the green frog, and there are other bird sounds in the background. So I wasn't able to find a good website to share for the Michigan Frog and Toad Survey, but I understand if you're interested in participating, you can email them at dnr-frogsurvey@michigan.gov, and it looks like there are local organizations and municipalities that organize local volunteers for doing frog and toad surveys. You're also able to go to the Michigan Herp Atlas, They have good species information as well as a database where you can set up an account and record your observations. For my out-of-state viewers, your own state's Department of Natural Resources, the Wildlife Division, they'll have information on the frogs and toads in your particular area, and a lot of different states have their own herp atlas as well where you can report your observations. I found this USGS website helpful, frog quizzes. You can click on public quiz. You can select the state that you're interested in and see a short list of frog and toad species likely to be encountered in your particular state, and then click on Take the Quiz after you review their different calls to test your skills. So I will leave you with some lovely frog music and let you try your skills. Let me know who you think you hear. Take care. Have a good week.